Hello, best of Trekkers. I would firstly like to give all of you my everlasting gratitude for helping get this channel to the 1,000 subscriber mark. I had planned on doing this a little ahead of the mark in preparation, but as it turns out, an awful lot of you like talking about ship designs in particular, and we just blew past that mark. As of filming, we're at 1,100 subscribers, and I'm so overjoyed that enough of you have chosen to listen to me rant about Star Trek on a weekly basis. Right now, I have a very small gripe from a still very small channel. Neither I nor many of the smaller, lower-decker YouTube channels were invited to participate in the officially unofficial Trek YouTube channel TrekCulture's recent chat in honor of hitting their 250,000 subscribers. Which, shout out to Sean, Chris, Ellie, and the gang for bringing random factoids about our favorite sci-fi series. And we all understand you've only got so much time to fill, and the Jesse Genders and Steve Shives of the world take priority. But I thought it would be fun to reach out to a bunch of smaller Trek YouTubers that deal with the topic week after week. Many, understandably, barely have time for their own projects, but some did answer the call to add their own 2 cents to 4 of TrekCulture's questions posed previously to the top dogs of YouTube Trekkies. I'd like to thank everyone that even read my email to do this, and a special shout out to all of our participants today. If you could help some of them achieve their own 1K subscriber goals and beyond, links to their channels are in the description. Let's answer some questions.
Hi everybody, my name is Gannon. I run a YouTube channel under the same name where I cover science fiction and also a lot of Star Trek because it's like my favorite thing in the world. Best of Trek, Worst of Trek has recently hit 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations to you, dude. Let's get right into it. What Star Trek hill would you die on? I'm going to die on the fact that Enterprise is an amazing series. It's an amazing prequel series and it deserved way more than 4 seasons. Its 4th season and its 3rd season were kind of masterpieces. I just wish I would have gotten at least one more of that crew because they were amazing. I love them and they really do need to be utilized more in new Trek.
Hi, my name is Vanessa and I love bad Star Trek. I can't believe I'm bringing this up again. In Picard season 1, when Data dies, that is the real death. That is, to me, headcanon, that's how I registered Data's death. On his terms, it's just him saying goodbye in a very brotherly way with Picard. I'm super into that. Can do without the movie.
Hello, YouTube! Scott here from Opinions No One Cares About to answer some of your burning questions about Star Trek. I don't think the thaw is as bad as people say it is. I love the idea that the premise was basically the Matrix before the Matrix. And, everybody loved the Matrix, right? The first one anyway. I love the idea that, Janeway essentially defeated fear itself. And for my money, you can never go wrong with Michael McKean. He is one of my favorite actors. And in this role, he brings a real Frank Gorshin as the Riddler energy to the character. And it's perfect. I love it.
Okay. Who is the better doctor? Dr. Pulaski is the better doctor. Give me Diana Muldaur over Gates McFadden any day. Dr. Pulaski is more entertaining to watch, more professional, and more scientific than Beverly Crusher. Pulaski would have been a stellar addition to the Enterprise crew for the remainder of the series.
What Star Trek hill will I die on? I've just finished it, so it's right on my mind, but in season 2 of Picard, they resolve the plot basically because Picard gives a 5-minute pep talk to Renee, and that gives her confidence enough to do the Europa mission and undoes everything Q does. People complain about this, that a 5-minute pep talk could bring about utopia, could avoid the dystopian future. It's the little moments and the quote-unquote little people that are what bring about the utopia and avoid the nightmare timelines. And if that is not the most Star Trek message I have ever heard, I don't know what is.
Discovery is Star Trek. And it's really not that bad. It's certainly not always good, particularly on a story arc level. One thing I'm really tired of seeing, though, is fans simply saying, Disco is not Star Trek, without being able to take in the good with the bad. Disco Season 4 is probably one of the franchise's worst seasons, but there are still a couple of amazing elements and dynamics that work. Similar to Season 3 of TOS that's mostly garbage, but a couple of the show's best episodes also. If you've already seen the seasons of Disco once, and at least know the overall plot of the arcs you're watching, try watching the series as episodic Star Trek by skipping around. Within almost every episode, there's some amazing pieces of dialogue or character dynamic that will likely surprise you. It ain't Trek's best series, but also doesn't have the Spock's brains or code of honors in its midst. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a Tarkasian razor beast, it's probably Star Trek.
What Star Trek character would you bring back? Jadzia. She is confident and collected, and I admire her grace and calm. She knows what she wants and is direct about it, well, most of the time. But Jadzia was not always so brave, and I want to see a prequel. Show me her youth before she became joined with the Dax symbiont. It would be interesting to see when Jadzia was rejected by Curzon, and then when she progressed through the training program and was finally joined. There's a great story there, but mostly I just love Jadzia Dax. I want that level of boss.
This one took the longest to answer. I think it would be Ezri, and I thought a long time about this, but Ezri having only one season at the very end of Deep Space Nine, I think is really the only big character in Star Trek who still has a story to tell, and you could still do new things with. It wouldn't just be bringing them back for old time's sake, or they wouldn't have anything to do. You kind of necessitate bringing back Bashir, but something with Ezri, what she did after Deep Space Nine, maybe the Aventine stuff. I'd love something with Ezri. Another answer that I'm quite fond of is I was talking with my uncle after Picard was announced, but before it came out, of who they might bring back from TNG, and the answer I love the most was Barclay, but make him Federation president, make him super confident, and make him one of the best presidents the Federation has ever had. Which, there's still one more season. I think they should do it. It would be amazing.
Bring back a Star Trek character? Okay, I'll give you 3. Mayweather, Sato, Kim. Those characters all deserved more than spending an inordinate amount of time, much longer than anyone else, as ensigns. Also, it's kind of a stain on the Berman Braga era of Trek that those 3 spent so long in the lowest officer rank and were also minorities. Honorable mention, though, bring back Captain Sisko.
Easily Trip Tucker. One of my favorite things about Enterprise was seeing the galaxy through the eyes of Florida Man, a capable engineer with an open mind, but doesn't always know if the right thing to do is actually the right thing to do in other alien cultures. There's already some great beta canon setup where his death is just an excuse to get him into Section 31, and in my head, that's 100% alpha canon material we just haven't seen on screen yet.
Back to light, Trip Tucker from Enterprise, or just pretty much any of the Enterprise cast members I'd really like to see in a modern Trek show. My most biased answer of somebody who's not really dead, Ben Sisko. I would like to see him make an official return from the Celestial Temple, and I would like some lore explanation for what he does afterwards with his life. If he ever returns to the timeline to actually interact with Cassidy or his son or any of the people left on Deep Space Nine ever again. And Trip Tucker, just because there have been novels written about him faking his death and becoming a Section 31 agent. That could definitely be addressed in the new Section 31 show. Long been rumored to come out, but we're all just waiting on Michelle Yeoh to actually come and act in it.
Absolutely, 100%. Hugh from Picard Season 1. I feel like his death was excessively gory, horrifying, and viscerally just unbelievably not okay. I feel like we could just chalk it up to a dream and we just move on and not regard it anymore. It's a toss-up between Hugh or Tasha Yar. A security officer dying as the result of falling in a puddle is completely ridiculous and not in a good way. And she deserved so much better than to just be a consistent picture of victimhood and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps type of thing. The Romulan sort of full circle moment was rewarding to see that actress back again, but the environment that caused her to go obviously was messed up, and the actress deserved better, the character deserved better, and Hugh did not deserve to die like that at all.
What one thing would you change about Star Trek? Other than wishing a few questionable episodes had never been made in the first place, looking at you up the long ladder, I would bring the stakes of modern Star Trek down a little bit. There's always a galactic level event that needs to be stopped. It used to be these events were reserved for movies. When you keep trying to raise the stakes season over season, you only back yourself into a corner going forwards as a writer. Strange New Worlds' first season showed a lot of promise in this area, and I hope to see more of this return to day-to-day problems the officers on starships face that was Star Trek's bread and butter for the first 50 years.
So, I do really like Star Trek Discovery. You know, I like Tilly, I like Stamets, I totally ship Saru and Tarina, love the Dadmiral. I even like Ruon Tarka, you know, the scientist with a slightly bigger moral center than Rick Sanchez. What I don't like is the fact that the show is not episodic. I have never wanted to just sit down and watch a random episode of Discovery because it feels like you kind of have to do the homework and watch every episode in the season to know what's going on. The only one I've ever really thought of that way was Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, and that's because I happen to love both Rainn Wilson and time loops. So if I was going to change anything, I would make Discovery as episodic as the rest of the shows in Star Trek.
This is something that maybe not a lot of people will relate to, but I've been vegan for almost 4 years now. Star Trek is probably the biggest reason that I plan on remaining vegan for the rest of my life. Unofficially, officially, the Federation of Planets is vegan. They all eat from replicators. They have no need to actually house livestock and slaughter it to produce food. It's really inefficient and unethical. I just need a whole written episode kind of going into more of an explanation about diet, food, and the eating habits of people in the United Federation of Planets. But how do we go from Riker telling the Seeley in that one episode that they no longer need to enslave animals for food, and then we also have Captain Janeway in the Equinox two-parter willing to risk her entire crew that she's been trying to keep alive for like 4 years now because she's on this vendetta that is a product of another starship captain betraying his oath and using sentient being and killing them as a fuel source in order to get home. You have people like Captain Janeway, but then you also have people like Captain Sisko and his dad who seemingly have a restaurant that uses fresh ingredients, like bro's really going out into the bio and hunting some alligators, and then Captain Riker in his older age just goes out and hunts bunnycorns on his own planet and puts them on a pizza. This stuff just doesn't add up, and I would like a little bit more explanation into it. Just personally interests me.
Honestly, probably Rick Berman. I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, but he assembled an amazing group of people to produce, to write everything modern Star Trek, classic Star Trek. But he himself was not a good person, and in a lot of ways went against Gene Roddenberry's vision and Star Trek's vision. And I'd love to see what that team that he built could have done without him. Star Trek very much succeeded in spite of Rick Berman, not because of it. And I would have loved to see some classic episodes on gay rights, anything, a much better run classic series, honestly.
One thing I would change consistently, and this has been the case throughout its history, the lack of diversity in the writer's room. We do not need white people telling people of color's stories. We don't need them telling queer stories if they're hetero. We need to diversify the writer's room so that these people's stories are three-dimensional, because otherwise they're painted as a flat caricature of what they think a person of that background or of that identity would act like. So that needs to absolutely be fixed, and I don't see why in this day and age it's not.
Make the female characters stronger. Okay, we've come a long way from the female of the week of TOS, but Deanna and Beverly could have been way more useful and powerful. I would go back and make all of the female characters of classic Trek more fearless and courageous, like T'Pol and Beckett Mariner, Michael Burnham, Devon Attendee, and pretty much the entire female cast of Strange New Worlds. Write women like that, strong, and give them the opportunity to meaningfully contribute to every episode.
What Star Trek show would I want made? Easy. I want a show. It'd have to be like a long Deep Space Nine, stay in one place kind of show about Starfleet's first contact with some species, probably, just hitting warp, but solely from the perspective of that species. I love first contact stories. Anyone who's seen my reviews will probably know that. And I want to see that. The really deep dive. Like, Discovery went deeper than I think anyone else with first contact, but I want even deeper. We really say, what are the effects on this civilization? How do the people take it? We have probably some ensemble cast. And like Deep Space Nine, basically, but it's first contact and from the perspective of the aliens. That would probably become my favorite Star Trek.
Absolutely, without a doubt, a post Deep Space Nine catch up, like a mini series to sort of catch up with Captain Sisko, Cassidy Yates, and his new child that he's never met before. I feel like I deserve that. I want that. I want Captain Sisko back. I want Cassidy Yates back. I want Quark back. I want the folks that want to come on the show to do so. I miss Kira. I just miss them as though they're my family, even though I only watched the show fairly recently. And just the show being over makes me miss them. And I would like for them to reprise their roles and acknowledge the losses, the sadness that they may feel, and bring it on home. I do not believe that the comic that is meant to supplement that is sufficient, to put it politely. So I really hope we get to reunite with the DS9 crew, such as it is, and see what has transpired in the meantime. Check in with the characters and see how they've changed. I feel like there's a lot of gold that can be mined out of that. What the Celestial Temple, if Sisko returns, what that has done to him. What a post-occupation Bajor is shaping up to be, according to Kira, and what Deep Space Nine is like. I think all of these are really important and worth exploring. And maybe even where Ferengi society sits. In Deep Space Nine, they were having some upheavals and a feminist movement with the Union Bar Association. So I wonder where Ferengi society has progressed or not from that point. Maybe they can make a commentary on where we're at right now, because the Ferengi, of course, are meant to be mirrors of us. I would be interested in seeing where that is.
Anything set in the Lost era that spans from the end of Star Trek VI to the first season of TNG. So little canon is known about this time period. My pick for main characters to fill in the story? Jean-Luc Picard, Jack Crusher, and Walker Keel. It's one of those stories where you know how it turns out in the death of Jack Crusher, which could be used by the writers to really build up the character and make his death even more tragic. A story about the journey where getting there would be half the fun. Constellation-class lemons and monster maroons for everyone.
So, if they actually get the Section 31 show made, I will absolutely watch it and I will love it. Most likely. But if you're asking me, I want a show set at Starfleet Academy. I want to see a group of first-year cadets working their way up through the academy and, find out exactly what it takes to become a Starfleet officer who's worthy and capable of serving on a starship. And for bonus points, go back and set it during the Dominion War, especially during that two-parter Homefront and Paradise Lost. See if any of the main characters that end up in Admiral Layton's Red Squad.
I would love to see a show made about the Trill symbionts and hosts. I want to see a story from each of Dax's and Tal's hosts. We would follow the histories and explore aspects of the character traits of the symbiont through each of their hosts and see how different themes and patterns of humanity weave themselves into the life experiences of the symbiont and help shape the development of the symbiont. So essentially, we'd see the lifespan of the symbionts from when Dax and Tall had their first host up to, or maybe beyond, the ones that we know. That could be really interesting.
What Star Trek show do you want made? I would like a Star Trek show that is a little bit low budget, something that is reminiscent of the 90s. Basically what the Orville is currently doing. Even Strange New Worlds, as great as it is, has way too much CGI, way too much flashiness to it. I need just some classic 90s soap opera Trek that's inexpensive. And also I would like there to be some masculine boy themes in it. I really thought it was awesome. Season 1 of Discovery, it really looked like we were going to get a drama series about a long, drawn-out, violent, scary Klingon war, and then they kind of abandoned that in the middle of the first season. And I really would like a Trek series that maybe is just about a long, drawn-out prequel war. That would be pretty cool. More on the writing, less on the CGI.
Thank you for asking me to do this. I love talking about this stuff.
Thanks for the shout out, Dustin. I have been Scott, and this has been Opinions No One Cares About. Everyone has opinions. This one was mine.
Thanks again, Dustin, for hitting me up. Congratulations on 1,000 subscribers. Keep on trucking. With all that being said, everyone, live long and prosper.
I hope that's what you wanted.
And
Were you whining for that?
try again. There's a thing on the wing.
It's the light of God.